Going from a little tiny seed all the way to a plant that's harvestable, it's producing fruit, is not an easy feat, let me tell you. And most importantly, it's not a fast thing. It takes a while to do. I mean, some of these plants we're keeping indoors or in seed containers or greenhouses or what have you for upwards of like 3 months before we even get them in the ground. We're not even close to harvesting this Brussels sprouts yet, but it was an uphill battle, multiple situations, changing the growing conditions, and we got them in the ground. And it's not a small feat by any stretch of the imagination. Welcome back to Sandy Bottom Homestead, everybody. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day. This is episode 2 of our seed starting series, and yes, it's early, you're not even starting seeds yet, but it's time for me to plant that seed in your mind about it. And I asked in the last video, and it still stands. If there's anything in this series that you want to know about starting seeds, comment below so that I can keep track of it and answer your questions on this series. And not everything will be answered, but you got a pretty good chance. And this is one of them. You know, I had somebody come on and they said something to the effect of like, how do I manage my seeds and get them to grow? And I lose track and I have ADHD, all that good stuff. I mean, look, let's take a look around real quick. You know, this time of year, the lead up to this, there was so much going on in the garden. We had to start every single plant you see out here. We started by seed. At the same time, we were weeding and watering and harvesting and treating and fertilizing and planting and planning. And then on top of our other life stuff. I mean, life's crazy, isn't it? It seems like you never get a break. But it's one of those things when you come in here, and it's like right now, I'm doing the greenhouse, and we seeded it last week. So we put our potatoes in, they're growing, except for one looks like we have a skip, but it is what it is. But then we have another row here, or another section, and you can see we do in fact have stuff growing. They just popped up yesterday. So, we need to keep on track of this. So when you're gardening and you're starting seeds and all that good stuff, it's hot in here. By the way, I'm in coastal North Carolina. It's like 83 degrees today. So it's not exactly hot, but it's not exactly cool. It's like in between. But when you're starting seeds, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to be all in. If you want to be successful, you need to be all in on your seeds. End of story. If you can't be all in and give them the attention they need, you're going to fail and you're going to struggle and you're not going to be happy with it. I mean, let's face it, each individual seed is basically like having an infant. I can give you an example right here. Look in the middle of this bed. Boom. I wasn't all in. I was all in for everything else, but it needed more attention for the spinach right here, and I did not provide it the attention it required. I was not all in, and you see my result. It's obviously, I can replant. That's fine. There's all these other options. There's multiple things going on there. One is spinach doesn't really germinate when it's above 85 degrees, in which it was above 85 degrees. So I didn't take the steps necessary to cool that soil down. So as we continue to cool more and more, I will hopefully reseed it. But I wasn't all in. And you may be thinking like, it's just seeds. What does it matter? Well, it makes a big, big, big difference. It really does. If you can't pay attention to those seeds and you can't check on them every day, you can't give them what they need because they aren't developed like these plants out here. These plants out here are developed. They've got root systems. They're in soil. There's water going to them. And when I say root systems, even though a seedling has a root system, it has a very minuscule root system. There is a tremendous amount of room for error there. If you let a seedling wilt, especially like a brand new seedling, done. These, on the other hand, they can wilt and they can bounce back because they're developing and they have bigger root systems. So we need to keep track of that. We need to be on top of our game when it comes to the seedlings. And if you're just getting started, starting seeds, or you've done it and you haven't had the success you'd like, then this is something that you can maybe work on. And it's very common. Look, I had the same problem. I was under the impression that I put the seed in, I give it some water, I come back, and I just need to check on it every once in a while. And that's really not the case. It becomes part of my routine daily to check on seedlings. And this is where I fail leading up into summer or into fall. Every year in the summer when I start seeds, I almost just don't have the time to give them the attention that they need. But you gotta make time. You just gotta do it. And look, you're watching this right now because you want to start seeds and you have a garden. And I can hear it now, well, I don't have time to give it all this attention. Well, let me put it to you this way. Look out your window, look at your garden. You had the attention to build that, now take it one step further. So we want to talk a little bit about how we can add this into our daily routines to check on our seedlings and what we can notice from them. I have to walk by them every 5 minutes. Make sure this stool's been sitting outside for years. Every 5 minutes and check on them. But you do need to walk by at least once a day. You got a seed starting shelf, great. You know, if they're inside, it's a little bit easier. But you walk by it, you know, every morning, grab your coffee, walk by, take a peek, see what's happening. Turn the light on, look at it. Is the soil dry? Water it. Is it wilting? Why is it wilting? Does it have too much water? Is it soggy? Is it sitting in there? And make time for it, because once that seedling gets going, it gets easier, but the very first couple weeks can be kind of tough until you figure it out. Once you start getting success on your belt, it gets a lot easier. Trust me, it gets a lot easier. But you just, at first, you have to remember, you come from seed, you develop a root, you've got one root in a container of soil that is saturated with water, and you can drown it, you can rot it, you can dry it out, you like deep desiccate it. And those are the three things that are gonna go wrong in the beginning. And so all it is just walking by and checking on that seedling daily to see. Now, as we get deeper into this series, we will talk more about the process of starting seeds, and I will show you kind of how I plan to take you down that road of the seeds in the soil, but there's no plant above it. What am I doing? How am I handling this? But for right now, I just want to make the public service announcement of like, you need to dedicate yourself to your seedlings if you're serious about learning to start seeds. And if you're not willing to do that, this may not be the series for you, because we're not really wanting to wet your feet with this seed starting series. We're wanting you to be totally comfortable and walk through this process together, holding hands together as we go through this. Some seeds are easier than others. You know, like these bok choys here, I swear they basically grow themselves. This is only my second year and my fourth season growing them, fifth season. And they are super easy to grow. I actually need to start harvesting, and I wasn't really prepared to start doing that yet, but it's time to start harvesting them. So we're going to be doing that soon. But you know, it's one of those things that it seems like it grows itself. Then you come on to the other aspect and you go all the way over here to the broccolis, and you know, they can be kind of difficult. Well, let's take it out of spring and fall. Peppers are difficult. Carrots can be difficult, and seed starting, for those are direct sown, but still, it's the same thing. Even direct sowing, we need to be prepared to dedicate ourselves to these seedlings until they get to a point to where we can kind of put cruise control on, lean our seat back, and just watch the road. And even then, you got to correct the steering wheel every once in a while. You know what I'm saying? This ain't no Tesla. We ain't got that. We ain't got an in-lane assist or nothing like that. This is manual, baby. We're going to do this, and we're going to do it right. But sometimes we got to intervene. And in the very beginning, it's as simple as recognizing, hey, it needs a little bit of water. It needs a little bit more light. It needs less water. You know, these simple things is all it takes in the beginning. So as you go through and you see other people's seed starting setups, and you start doing your research and seeing what seeds people are starting, and making the common question of where do you buy your seeds and this, that, and the other, just recognize that every one of those seeds those people buy and use are all babied at first. And it's really important to do so. Like I said, as we get into it, it gets easier and easier. And now, like for instance, this garden is basically on cruise control at this point. It's just managing certain things. But up until the point where you get your seedlings in the ground, and then even after that, they need to be babied. But once they get in the ground, give it about a week or two. If the weather's right and you're adding what you need into it, it gets a little bit better. Now, I will say this, there's a sweet moment in your seed starting that it gets easy. You know, you get your seed to pop and it grows, and you've got your first leaves, and then you get your true leaves. Once you get about your second to, well, we'll say your second set of true leaves, the roots are now big enough in that seed cell, providing that you've given it the correct size seed cell that it needs. You know, you haven't put a broccoli plant in, you know, a 15-gallon container or something, you know, a seed. Let's say you're starting them in seed trays. Then once you do that and you get about your second set of true leaves, they get a little bit easier, because now the roots are really starting to form, they're growing, they're starting to fill a little bit the cell, and they're starting to take up the water, and they can almost manage the water in the cell perfectly, meaning you can water it, but then they're going to use up the water. But then it goes back and it goes downhill again. It's kind of like the terrible twos, you know what I'm saying, if anybody's a parent out there. You get in there and now the roots are starting to fill that container, and that plant will be temperamental as all get out. It will be a nightmare almost, and you're gonna have to go in and you'll water it, and then you'll have to water it the next day, and you'll have to water it the next day, and you'll have to water it, and you'll have to, you know, it's just like constant. And then we move it out and we get it in the ground, and it gets easier. You know, at first it's the same thing. You have very little roots and they're all really confined in this space like this. And then what we do is we put them in, and then as they start to grow out and they start using up that soil, then they can take up that water. So as they take up that water around them, then you have less to worry about as far as like, am I watering them enough? Are they going to drown because they're now taking water out of the environment that they're in? And then once they get going that way, we start going in a good direction. And all of a sudden the other issues will start to kick in. But for now, just know you need to be all in on this process. If you don't have time, no worries. You don't have time. Don't do it. But if you got time and you want to do it and you want to be successful, then by all means, give it a shot. But we need to have the patience and we need to have the perseverance to go through and manage our seedlings every single day, at least while they're getting started. And that is what makes seed starting a success. So we've gone through buying the seeds, setting yourself up for success by the seeds that you purchase, and now we understand that once we buy those seeds and we start them, we need to be dedicated to them. Now we're adding more success chances to it.